This video is brought to you by Squarespace. From websites and online stores to marketing tools and analytics, Squarespace is the all-in-one platform to build a beautiful online presence and run your business. In this video, we're going to talk about the A7s III, and I want to do a dedicated video just on some of the connectivity features. There's a lot of really cool things that Sony have added into this camera. There's options for using an HDMI out, for using a monitor setup. We've got Bluetooth options, USB options. You can power the camera. We can also send images and videos to a server via FTP. And we also have some new audio options with the MI or multi-interface shoe. So let's dive down and get started. First up, I want to talk about one of my favorite features in this camera. This is not necessarily new to Sony cameras, but I want to talk about HDMI output to an external recorder. We do have a full-sized HDMI connection now. It's no longer the little mini HDMI connection that was easy to bend. We have a full-size connection in here now. So that is the first thing I really love. The second thing is that we have a new processor in this camera, so it enables a little more functionality of things that we couldn't do on previous models. So one of my favorite features is when we are connected to an external monitor, you can still use the flip out screen and you can have your function menus and it still works with touch and you have more control. It is a 2-monitor setup. The main monitor will be your clean HDMI out if you're using something like the Atomos Ninja 5, but then you also have another monitor where you can make adjustments via touch. And so that is a major new feature that I'm really loving on this camera. Now, one of the big new features on this camera is the ability to output a raw video signal. So what you're going to need for this is a recorder that supports raw video from the A7s III. Unfortunately, this is brand new. This is a pre-production model. At the time I'm filming this, the Ninja 5 from Atomos does not support it. That's a very popular recorder slash monitor. I imagine they will probably come up with a firmware update for that. I have no confirmation or information on that. I'm just kind of hoping they will. But what you will do is when you have a recorder that does support the raw footage, you will get a raw signal with your choice of color space from the A7s III. Now, what's cool about this is typically video is shot 16:9. This will give you output from the entire sensor. So it's going to be 4:3 like you would see in stills mode, except it's video. Now, the advantage here is that if you're outputting to 1080p, let's say in the end, it's just going to be an HD workflow. You can shoot 4K, output that raw, and then you have some choices in terms of cropping. And if, for instance, you want to film like a 2-person interview using one camera, you can do some cropping in the end. So there's a lot of possibilities there if raw video is your thing. There are some really interesting audio options on the A7s III as well. Of course, we do have a microphone input and a headphone jack. So if you want to use a Rode mic and monitor your recording with headphones, that's certainly doable. But we also have the multi-interface shoe, or as Sony call it, the MI shoe. And that supports a couple different things that I want to share with you in terms of microphone options. Now, the benefit here is that you can use a microphone and there's no cables connected. So it's actually kind of cool. It also gives you a digital signal that comes straight into the camera, so you're going to get cleaner audio with lower noise. The A7R4 was introduced alongside this, which is the ECM B1M. Yes, these are the names. But this is a little microphone that uses capsules on the top, and it also supports 3 different patterns in terms of pickup. You can apply noise cancellation, and you can also adjust your levels on here. And this is a microphone that I actually like quite a bit. I think for run and gun shooting, for vlogging, this is absolutely essential. And the fact that there's no wires hanging off of it, it's really a pretty cool thing. Look, Mon, no wires. This is a little test here with the Sony ECM B1M. Really need some names for these. Anyway, I think the audio quality on here is really good. This is just straight off the camera here. So I would typically add a little bit of EQ and you can hear a little bit of difference. So we get a little more low end going, but I really love this microphone. I think it's perfect for vlogging setups. I think it's perfect for run and gun shooting. It does really well. It's a much better alternative to something like using the internal mics. Now, the other option that you have is this thing, which is the XLR K3M, and the microphone that's included in this kit is the ECM XM1. There will be a quiz after this video, so you need to remember these names. I'm only kidding. Now, this device actually supports multiple inputs. So you're going to see input 1 and input 2 are both XLR, and you can put whatever mic you want to in here. So if you don't want to use the included ECM XM1, which actually is a decent mic, but you can use whatever mic you want. This is super handy if you've got 2 lav mics, and let's say you're recording an interview or something like that, you can get both channels inputted into the camera. And again, the only wire on here is going to be connecting the microphones to the interface unit. So now we've got the audio coming off of the XLR
XLR K3M, and I'm using the mic, which is the ACM-X M1 microphone, which is a little shotgun mic with an XLR connector. Of course, I can add my own, but this is what it sounds like coming direct in, and I would, again, add some EQ to this, so we have a little more low end, so on and so forth, but I think this is a really good option. Now, there is another connection here. Input 3 is kind of a mini line connection. One thing that is interesting with the advent of the A7s III is that it supports 4-channel monitoring. Now, there are actually 4 channels you can get out of here. Inputs 1 and 2 are mono, and the little line input is actually stereo, and you can record up to 4 channels at the same time. This is a really cool unit to use if you're doing something like an interview. You need to be able to get independent audio channels for a mix down later. And of course, it does support 48-volt phantom power, all powered by the camera through the multi-interface shoe. So this is a really cool option. It's kind of essential, I think, if you're going to be using this camera for a lot of filmmaking. I love that Sony have thought through this, and we now have some really good audio options. Now, I also want to talk about some of the options that you have with USB-C, but first I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor today, who are the awesome folks over at squarespace.com. Present your photography using Squarespace's modern professional portfolios. The layouts are completely customizable, and you can use Squarespace's drag and drop based backend system, which is really easy to use to present your work the way that you want it seen. Squarespace is an all-in-one platform for building beautiful websites, easily claiming your domain or URL, and creating a custom site that brings your ideas to life. Squarespace is host to a number of other tools, including e-commerce, appointment scheduling, and analytics, so that you can grow your brand and your following. So head over to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, you can go to squarespace.com/AOP to save an additional 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Once again, that is squarespace.com/AOP, and I want to thank the folks at Squarespace for sponsoring another episode of The Art of Photography. You've probably also noticed that on the side of the A7s III, we now have a USB-C input, and this can be used for a variety of things. First of all, you can charge the battery or power the camera if you have a USB brick. This comes in really handy if you're doing a longer interview or something that's long-form video. You can now power the camera and keep it moving the whole time, or you can use this for data connectivity for moving files. So for instance, if you have the imaging mobile app that Sony makes on your phone or mobile device, you can move images several different ways through Bluetooth, over Wi-Fi, or you can even use the USB port now, which is very cool. The other thing that I love about this is you can get a USB-C to Ethernet adapter. I did a whole video on this before with the Sony A7s II and some of the connectivity you can have with an FTP server. This is extremely useful for people who shoot photojournalism or sports and need to upload images right on the fly. Well, the A7s II did not support video. However, the A7s III will move video, and this is really handy if you have a setup like I do where I have a Synology server that's set up. All of my footage gets backed up here, and what I like about this is rather than moving cards in and out of card readers, what I do is I just simply hook the camera up to the network, and then I simply do an FTP upload to the FTP server, and this just runs in the background as long as the camera's powered. It's super fast. It's 1000 base T, and you get all of your stuff right into the server, and it's already backed up. And then I can just move the files over for editing later. But this is a super organized way to work, and I actually love the FTP functionality that Sony is starting to put in on these cameras. So there's some really great connectivity features with the A7s III that are really useful, and what I really love about this, if you're a video shooter or if you shoot stills in low light, you're going to be right at home with this. You're going to be able to use all this stuff. It's amazing. Now, a lot of people probably have already expressed a little bit of frustration that it's not backwards compatible with older models, but this is clearly the direction that Sony is now moving, and I love that they're being very forward-thinking with this in their designs and features and what you're able to do. So I would love to know what you guys think, so drop me a comment below. I will catch you guys in the next video. Until then, later.